Avowed, the latest game released from Obsidian Entertainment, famed for their Knights of Old Republic, Fallout New Vegas, and even that South Park game. Known for their excellent writing and rich characters as well as the worlds, the only good parts that actually I liked from Outer Worlds. But today we're taking a look at the most recent screw-up, Avowed, a game that at best is just okay, if you squint a lot. 80 to 100 developer team, $70 game with barely a live player base on Steam with questionable premium upgrade version and public sentiment that's split right down the middle. See, Avowed didn't need to be the next Skyrim, but marketing and the price tag certainly didn't shy away from the comparisons. Either hubris or incompetence masquerading as a mainstream big-budget game, without the features to back it all up.
Do you want people to compare this game to Skyrim?
People start comparing other games to this game.
And you know, it's peculiar that pretty much every interview with the game's director, Carrie Patel, has a noticeable negative ratio, despite YouTube trying to hide the number, the cowards. So, what happened? What failed Avowed? Now, while I was playing Avowed off-stream, I tried getting into the game, but after about a fifth crash in, let me check, 7.5 hour playtime, I just gave up. Yep, I never got past the first third of the game, and sure, it would be unfair to fully judge Avowed on this experience objectively. So let's just consider this rant as a cautionary tale as to why Avowed failed for me. In fact, let's just do that real quick. List the things that actually hold up the game like Atlas. So first off, it has to be the combat, at least personally speaking. Even if it feels more or less robotic, it's snappy, responsive, and immediately intuitive. That is until we look at balancing and menus with so much text that I want to strangle something. But again, we're focusing on the good. Next then has to be art style. A very vivid, colorful, and fantastic fantasy. And this sets the tone for more family-friendly adventures. And frankly, after the bleak radiation zone of Stalker, I welcome a palate cleanser. And third has to be the level design that rewards exploration, even if it is only to facilitate combat loot. However, that's about all the positives I can give you. As for the aspects where Avowed failed, well, those were too hard to ignore. So let's just start with the inexcusable.
Do you want people to compare this game to Skyrim?
People start comparing other games to this game. People start comparing other games to this game.
That's cute, if it wasn't such a blatant hubris now in the retrospect especially. But anyways, let's start with the inexcusable failures that literally can't be excused with just, oh, but I like it. Well, guess what? In these cases, the feelings won't change the objectively bad things. So here we go. Starting with Unreal Engine 5. Every game that currently uses this abomination seems to curse their users with sometimes great visuals, followed by ugly temporal smearing and ghosting trails, especially in shadowy environments, with added, sometimes extremely subpar performance.
Series X frame rate.
You can get up to 60. You can get up to 60.
Up to 60 frames a second? On the most powerful peasant box with graphics like these shouldn't be really a problem now, would it? However, this mostly is the cost of Unreal Engine's Lumen. And this is where the developers are not completely at fault for the bad performance compared to the visuals. However, what I can blame Avowed for is the terrible crashes and this.
How am I ever supposed to return to the farm?
I simply cannot find an excuse or an explanation for animals to be jittering forward as their frankly static animation is being played. This genuinely is inexcusable. Just like it's inexcusable to have JPEGs as your cutscenes. Okay, fine, I get it. You save money with JPEGs as your lore dump cutscene. Fine.
We are here. Come to us. Commune with us. We have waited for you. Come.
What's the matter? Can you hear me?
A rot eats at the foundation of this land. Corruption seeps into the soil.
However, to have barely animated JPEG as your main story dialogue scene with some spirit power? No! The level of rationalization and contortion you have to make to excuse this is so high, you'll be looking like a pretzel if you ever attempt to. And the worst crime, of course, our outright failure for the game to be, a game. Crashes. The funniest of them, in fact, happened when I first played the game on stream. I don't care. So I'm not picking the power. Yes. Let's see how badly of a prick can I be. Okay, it crashed. I don't know, man. The thing is... At the end, the game obviously crashed, and as an added insult, it decided to take my PC with it. Yep, it was a total system lockup that required power cycling.
How are you feeling about, things are almost ready? Like we're almost at time.
I'm thrilled. I mean, there's always a bit of anxiety, a bit of nervousness. You're worried about where's that one crash that nobody's found yet that everybody's going to see when we release. But in all honesty, we've been playing the game a ton, and even internally, like the coolest thing is to hear from the team that has been working on this game. I love my build. I'm having so much fun in combat. I'm finding things that are new to me in regions I have worked on, and I am so invested in the end state I'm getting to at the end of the game.
And so, like I said, after about 4th crash after that one, I simply just gave up on the game. However, crashes were not the only inexcusable failure. It was just the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, normally here I would critique a game for its failure or success to create a world that is responsive to your actions. I call it world reactive. Now, with Avowed, it was so bad, it nearly ruined my experience entirely. Hold on. Are you serious right now? Is the whole environment static? Like, hold on a second. Right off the bat in the first stream, I noticed very quickly that nothing in the world reacts to you doing things. Yes, even the simplest things like blowing up a bomb next to some rocks or furniture did nothing. Smacking some cups? Nope. Even shooting or walking through water, hell, even swimming, even though it is there, nothing! But hey, at least there are some sound effects for them, right? And let's not even talk about picking up ragdolls or moving objects. Hell, at this point I'm even surprised that guns leave bullet holes in the first place.
Gabe had started to develop this theory around interactivity, and the environment needed to let you do what you wanted and then react to it. So if you did something, if you shot your gun, there needed to be a bullet hole in the wall. If you did a thing, people needed, other characters needed to react. The world is acknowledging you exist. The world is acknowledging all of your actions. And that's this huge part of reinforcement.
Now, to demonstrate just how bad, lazy, and utterly inexcusable this is, let's load up Unreal 5. No, seriously, you too can do the same thing without even knowing any game development or coding. Now let's load up a pre-built test scene, like this one. Let's press play. Oh, look at that, boxes are physical objects and you can move them by moving your character through them. Okay. Stopping the demo and looking up the box in the editor. Oh, look at that, it has a physics toggle. Now playing the demo again, the object we turned off physics on cannot be moved anymore. That is how little Avowed developers needed to do to make objects have physics. So they most likely had to actively make a decision to make props static. It's just mind-boggling. For every game that does this, but for this one especially. And don't you dare suggest that physics calculations are super intricate and they require a lot of performance. Stalker 2 runs on the same engine with better graphics. It has these physics, even if it is for small objects.
Destructible environments?
In part.
Here, Kerry Patel refers to basically only this. And it makes it so misleading. It's the level of Sean Murray before No Man's Sky was released. Misleading bullshit.
Is a little jank kind of a good thing?
You gotta accept a little jank to do something fun and creative, I think.
Now this clip, believe it or not, I will not rake them over coals with like some other creators have. While again it's blatant hubris and dismissal of actual failures, I think that Carrie simply gave a generalized answer for a generalized question. Now like it or not, every game will have some sort of unexpected coding, visual or technical failures. Avowed, in fact, due to everything being so goddamn static, actually has less jank than if the physics actually existed in living lands, which kinda makes it funny and sad at the same time. However, what certainly is both jank as fuck and inexcusable is this. no NPC moves. Yes, even NPCs are static outside of opponents in combat. It's honestly utterly baffling and perplexing that not even simplistic movement, like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, exist in Living Lands. I utterly refuse to believe that these developers have never heard of NPC routes, node maps, or any kind of AI behavior, because again, in combat, NPC opponents move just fine, even if it is basic. And then I realized, what if? Oh no! They couldn't have! The same jittery garbage movement is applied to non-combat AI. What the fuck is going on? How could your enemy movement be working normally, but normal NPCs walking be this? And what makes it even more perplexing is that this exists. The asset store is filled with plugins for cheap that does this! And I remind you all again, this is a $70 game. This is inexcusable! Oh, but let's continue. In this $70 game, you'll have a one-man play as a random NPC doing things that looks like this.
A solo performance I have for you today. Follow me on an auditory adventure. A tour of the living lands and its most wild creatures. First, let me introduce you to the mating call of the Stelgar.
And I remind you, this is not just a cherry-picked example, this is everywhere. I was lost for words how incompetent and lazy this 80+ developer team must have been to pump out something as, well, frankly, inexcusable as this.
Is a little jank kind of a good thing?
You gotta accept a little jank to do something fun and creative, I think.
Oh, but speaking of that actor, there is more.
What's the most evil thing you can do in the game?
Well, I don't want to spoil anything.
Is there a big, obvious evil thing you can do?
Yes. I mean, you can side with the antagonists.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Now, usually I make a crass joke about killing children in these RPG games, but at this point it feels like taking an industrial forge hammer to smash someone's testicles in. Just like static objects, static props, static NPCs, and anything that's not an enemy, you can't harm anything that is not an enemy. And for an RPG, this is very telling. It blatantly shows you how railroady the game's writers and designers are, as well as how much freedom you're actually being given.
The high line is Avowed is a first-person fantasy action RPG set in a wild and mysterious and magical land. Avowed is also a game that follows in the tradition of Obsidian RPGs, which to those of us at the studio, it really means that we place a huge emphasis on player choice. That means player choice in how you define and progress your character, player choice in how you role play moment to moment in dialogue with other characters, in how you choose to resolve quests, in the big meaty decisions and the little flavorful character defining decisions that you're making across the game. We really want to create an immersive and explorable experience for players, a world that engages the player's curiosity and then rewards that extra effort, and something where players have a really personal journey through the game.
And here's the thing, even this could be good. If you want to make a limited options, okay, make a game that way, but also don't write it to imply things you literally cannot do. For example, characters saying, well, this is a dangerous part of town, when the most dangerous thing around is an animated stone pillar acting as an NPC. And so the level of hubris here is on full display.
Avowed is also a game that follows in the tradition of Obsidian RPGs.
Now, I'm sorry, but I recall in New Vegas, everyone was killable. In Outer Worlds, everyone that was not behind the bulletproof window was also killable. And the story progressed just fine forward. Now, do you see a problem here? And that leads us to simply the game being a boring dialogue tree with nothing but combat encounters or occasional exploration to find combat items. I'm sorry, but what kind of experimentation are you referring to? Oh, sure, combat has a certain variety, from melee with parries, bows and arrows, guns, and my favorite and most interesting, magic. But due to this weird static world and basic fundamental frontal ability spamming slugfest Avowed calls combat, stealth really feels out of place. And it certainly doesn't help that it's not a one-hit kill unless you're fighting very weak enemy. It's just an extra powerful opening move and nothing else. And again, $70 premium for this? Are you taking the piss? And the final nail in the coffin for me was the writing. Right off the bat, the opening of the game was a JPEG cinematic lore dump of the world to the player, and my eyes were glazing already. See, I never played any of the Pillars of Eternity, so this was a perfect way to get me into the series, right? Nope! After that JPEG cinematic, you get another CGI cinematic that recaps the previous cinematic. Am I going crazy here? Okay, bad start with crappy exposition dump. Gods, even mentioning Skyrim's opening Cartwright feels like beating Avowed with a diamond-encrusted crowbar. And Skyrim's opening was pretty boring, but at least it did set the tone right. Well, maybe Avowed can redeem its open world with its characters and NPCs, even if they don't move. There's just something about the writing, I can't put my finger on it. I don't need to know. That's a useless sentence, number one, and two? That's 3 useless sentences.
We cannot, and we are afraid.
3 sentences saying the same thing.
We fear the rot. It spreads in the bear, the water, the wild.
2 sentences of the same.
It's an infection.
3.
A foreign body invades the host.
4.
Fights back.
My God! I know what's wrong! Jesus Christ! No wonder this felt familiar. This is much like Starfield's failure. And here we go again. God damn it. Okay, Starfield, the wretched pile of crap, had this terrible writing style of not condensing the story, and seems Avowed learned nothing from it. Instead, opted to repeat the same mistakes. Now, I'm not a writer, nor will I bore you with analysis for the bad writing, but if you ever play the game or watch YouTube cinematics or gameplay, try paying attention and counting how many sentences each NPC that opens their Pandora's flaps and repeats sentences, either in their sentiment or value. Basically, how much can you condense all of that crap in just one sentence? Try counting that, and you'll see what I mean. Just as I was streaming and realized this, I shortly had the notorious first crash, but playing off hours, it only got worse. Though it's not exactly Starfield's writing bad, but it's close. And this is the epitome of Avowed's writing. No actual animations, no movement, no scene making. Just tell, don't show. Scenes, motherfucker, do you speak it? And I haven't started questioning the tone of the game either, so let's start. So the world of Avowed is super bright and colorful. Characters speak to you like you're a grown baby.
You look like a dab hand with that. I don't understand. Why would they fire on us, their own people? No use wondering. We've got to make sure our troops are safe.
The Emperor would never forgive me if anything happened to you.
Take it slow. We'll be right here.
I shit you not, the tone almost could be mistaken for patronizing. And of course you can't harm anything that is not clearly labeled as enemy. Okay, so that's an extremely family-friendly approach to fantasy. Okay, that can work. But then why is there so much blood and dead bodies? And a few other grown-up themes. So what the hell is this game even for? And do I need to bring out Skyrim comparisons again to show the visual tone matches the theme? But anyways, then there's this.
How good are the jerk dialogue options in this game?
You can be a pretty sassy little jerk.
Okay.
It's fun.
Yeah, no. The options are so limited, at least in my limited experience, that the character felt like it was pigeonholed into being, at worst, mildly sarcastic and nothing more. It was like the writing for Avowed was done by a wholesome Christian Discord server, and I wish that was a joke. But the point about the dialogue is essentially that it fails to capture your attention. Worse, it actually turns you off and makes you think that it's boring, but in reality, it actually is bad. Now, I could go on, but there you go. The utterly inexcusable technical shortcomings produced by a good-sized development team on a good budget asking $70 for this? An utter baby's first fantasy game? Is an ask that feels like taking the piss by any other cynical company, or by complete incompetence. The only departments that were given the talent and the time seems to be the combat mechanic coders and artists. But that's not enough to keep me around, and it seems on Steam, even if it is okay reviewed by the public, I doubt that people will stick around for this static world where anything is unmovable like the stone pillars that developers call NPCs. So, what do you think? Am I just yelling in the void, missing the point of the game? Or was I right to drop it harder than a newborn on a cold and hard maternity ward floor?
Boom, boom.